And now I will read to you something that I wrote. And also within this there are excerpts from different books that I have read that I quote to help make the point I'm trying to make. And what I want to talk about is love and how it works. And so I call this Love, How It Works. You perhaps have heard the saying, when people believe in the power of love and desire it more than they care for the love of power, then we will have world peace. Or, when we love our children more than we hate our enemy, then we will have world peace. This is true, but the lack of understanding of what love is and how it works often complicates things, and therefore many people think of love as not being very effective. I can understand how it is that some would think this way, and why they would ask, why love the enemy when they are just going to take advantage of you for having done so? And even, why love the enemy while they are taking advantage of you? And it goes even further. How can I love the ones who took my loved one's life? This is a legitimate question, and one that deserves to be answered. People want to know of what advantage it is for us to love the enemy. We do know that Jesus said, love your enemy. And he also said, do good to those who despitefully use you and persecute you. Yet that saying by Jesus we find very hard to live by, especially as a country. We often think, kill the enemy or starve them out, or ruin the reputation of your enemy. And this is true of a whole nations of people and individuals dealing with other individuals as well. For to love the enemy is seen as aiding and abetting the enemy to continue on with their nefarious ways. It is often not seen as anything logical that we should be doing, this loving the enemy. I think that the first step towards reconciling with the enemy is to simply stop demonizing them. If we could but understand that everyone who does what we call evil thinks that they are doing what for them is good or necessary, then we would have some idea about where they are coming from. Also, we will have the necessary knowledge of how to alleviate the problems that got the whole thing going in the first place. What are the conditions that they have experienced that cause them to feel as they do? Why should they hate us? And we need to ask, have we done something that has helped the situation to be as it is? Well, I want to explain how love can be the power that overcomes all obstacles, that heals all disagreements, that shows the path to take, where it will be a win-win situation for all concerned. But first we must talk about vibrations. We must understand something about energy, and we must realize that we ourselves are energy, and that we move about in a kind of energy soup. It becomes very important to learn about energy and how it moves and how it acts and reacts with us, so that we don't have to experience that which it creates, which is so bad, so sorrowful. We, our bodies, mental and physical, are like a relay station for energy. We both send energy and receive energy. It cannot be measured by any device we currently have, but it can be felt. You have probably felt it before when you were in the presence of a negative person who could not be happy no matter what, and who caused everyone in their presence to feel trapped and unhappy. You may also have had your energy sucked out of you by a personality who demanded more of you than they had the right to demand, and thus you felt weaker from the drain of this kind of an energy vampire. Often the energy vampire is someone we love or a family member. You may have felt a high of energy at a football game when your team scored the winning touchdown and everyone stood up and cheered and the excitement gave you a rush. You may have viewed a horror movie that had you sitting on the edge of your seat in apprehension, making you very nervous. Or you may find that when there is lightning and thunder, you become very excited and alive feeling. So you have felt energy or vibrations at various times in your life that have shown you how it feels on those occasions. Always when we feel a certain way, unless we have disciplined ourselves, feeling is going to cause us to feel an emotion. Energy in motion, emotion. Vibration. And vibration is what it's all about. It is to learn to control that vibration that we must accomplish. So, in order to understand why love, we have to understand something more about energy, its vibrations, its movements, and the emotions we experience. Right off, remember this. Energy is thought vibration. It is caused by thoughts, feelings, words, and actions. This energy is going to be coming to us, and it's going to be sent out by us. We will either be hurt by it or helped by it. It is neutral. Energy follows thought. Energy travels in circles, so it is going to return to sender. That is one reason for using the energy of love, so that when it returns, it brings us more love, if it be that it is love that we sent out. So, are people emotional? Are some people emotional cripples? How much of our training in life addresses this ability of how to control our emotions? Do we teach our children to control their emotions? Are there classes in school for learning how to control emotions? There should be. Sometimes I've had people say to me, don't get me mad because you won't like me when I'm mad. And then they go on to actually brag about their emotion of anger when they get mad, like it was a virtue. When we become scared or angry over things that happen to us, we sometimes have this fight or flight energy. A woman can clean house and do a bang-up job of it if she is mad, because mad energy is energy that must be dissipated. Same with a man. Only nowadays we don't usually have to fight or flee when we feel fear. Or maybe the house does not need cleaning, so we just have this pent-up energy in us that if we don't use it in a physical way, will sort of clog up our channels. We don't hear our guidance, our inner self, and for many of us, there is not a knowing that we even have an inner voice in us. There is a scripture that says, "Be still and know that I am God." That's listening inwardly. So, we have to still the mind and listen inwardly, called meditation. If we can hear this inner voice, we will become like Jesus, who talked about the God within him, said that he of himself could do nothing, but the God within did all the wonderful things people saw him do. Only Jesus said that this God within was within us as well, and that even greater things would we do than he had done. Now, how to recognize the voice of the God within us? The God that is in his holy temple, not made with hands, our own mind. How do we know when we hear that we are hearing God's words to us and not that of an evil spirit, or perhaps our own little scared child self or our ego self? There are ways. It is a skill. It has to be developed. We will find that there is a trial and error way of finding this out. Not the best way, for it is best to have a mentor show us the ropes. That is what I hope to be for others, because I had to learn the hard way. I will share with you how I dealt with this hearing voices within. When I first realized that we could talk inwardly, then I was gung-ho for doing it, but I had no mentor to show me the ins and outs of it. I did not know then that my intention for wanting to hear this inner voice had to be a good, a pure intention. I actually was going through a very scary time of my life as regarding survival, financial and physical, the whole package. I won't bore you with all the details, but we'll cut to the chase. I did contact spirits, and they at first amazed me that I was even talking to them. I was soon afterwards very troubled that they talked to me because they played games with my emotions. They seemed to love me and to be out for my good, but then they would turn on me and tell me things that so confused me that I was becoming a mental case. It was not fun. It was outright scary, to tell you the truth. I had to be in a lockup facility 3 times for short durations of time because it became that I could not function on my own. If it weren't for my second husband, Bob, helping me, I don't know what would have become of me. But he was there for me, and he allowed me to just sleep away my days and nights, for all I wanted to do was to sleep. I was depressed so much, nervous as all get out, and a complete mess. I heard these voices that seemed to know my thoughts, everything I thought about. I wanted not to hear them. I went to a church and asked them to cast them out of me, and they commanded them to come out, but they did not come out. Then one day I came across a book by Joel Goldsmith called The Infinite Way, and in it I read that everything visible and invisible to us is part of God. I reasoned that all parts of God we should love, but how could I love these voices that haunted me, that would not go away? Finally, I came to the conclusion from reading that book that I would talk to the spirits and they would have to know I was sincere, since they seemed to know my thoughts. I told them the following: I have decided that you are a part of God, and as such I will love you and not hate you. But you are like naughty children who need to be disciplined. I know you will understand the feeling of love I have concerning you, since you seem to read my thoughts so easily. Also, I am telling you not to talk to me again, unless I ask you. I told them that I had read this book, which thing they knew already, and that I was going to find many books to read. I had prayed to God to send me the books I would need when I needed them. I told these spirits that they were welcome to sort of look over my shoulders as I read and listen to what I would be reading. I did not demand that they cast themselves into the pits of hell. I don't even believe in hell anyway, except for the man-made hell we can make of our lives and the hell-like thoughts we might have to be rescued from after death. After this, after about 2 years of being driven almost crazy because of them, they stopped speaking to me, altogether stopped. I was then getting better and better each day, learning much about God, praising God for living within me, and saying things to God such as, if they could speak to me, those spirits, surely God, you will speak to me inwardly. I would not accept that God could or would not also speak to me, if my intention was pure, which by now it was more so. Some time later, after about a year, I talked again to those spirits and asked them if they had been helped by what I had read. They spoke again, and this time they were full of thankfulness to me for giving them the opportunity, and how they were now being healed and blessed because of what they had learned with my help and with my blessing. Well, isn't that the way it should work? Love the enemy, love those who persecute you and despitefully use you. But couple that love with wisdom, for without wisdom, it just won't work. Loving others does not mean we become a doormat to be stepped on by others. Loving others is not even something we can do if first we don't love ourselves first. You have not love to give out if you have not first given it to yourself. And if we love ourselves first, we will not want to be treated badly. Well, you may say, I love others and still I am treated badly by people. So what is it that I am doing wrong? I want to read to you some words of Neville Goddard, who had much to say about thought transmissions and such. Just listen to this understanding he gives in his own words. He is speaking of our subconscious mind. I quote now. Man transmits ideas to the subconscious through his feelings. The subconscious transmits ideas from mind to mind through telepathy. Your unexpressed convictions of others are transmitted to them without their conscious knowledge or consent, and if subconsciously accepted by them, will influence their behavior. The only ideas they subconsciously reject are your ideas of them which they could not wish to be true of anyone. Whatever they could wish for others can be believed of them, and by the law of belief which governs subjective reasoning, they are compelled to subjectively accept and therefore objectively express accordingly. The subjective mind is completely controlled by suggestion. Ideas are best suggested when the objective mind is partly subjected, that is, when the objective senses are diminished or held in abeyance. This partly subjective state can best be described as controlled reverie, wherein the mind is passive but capable of functioning with absorption. It is a concentration of attention. There must be no conflict in your mind when you are praying. Turn from what is to what ought to be. Assume the mood of fulfilled desire, and by the universal law of reversibility, you will realize your desire. If you want to know more about this controlled reverie, I have included this book in which you can learn more of what Neville Goddard had to say. It will be in the description bar. He speaks much about this law of reversibility. I ask you now to understand this about love. When you wish something for your enemy, is it a curse or a blessing that you wish for them? I realize that I myself, because I am not all the way there yet, for sure, have had thoughts of revenge. And yes, I cursed others in my thought life, but now I know better than to do that, and I tend to catch myself on it. When I catch myself doing it again, because habits die hard, then I don't get angry with myself because I love myself enough to forgive myself quickly. However, I do bring my attention to what I thought, and I mentally say, cancel that thought. That is not what I really wish to happen. And then I change my thoughts to loving thoughts and healing thoughts for that other. Hear more of what Goddard had to say about the use of our imagination. Everything that can be seen, touched, explained, argued over, is to the imaginative man nothing more than a means, for he functions by reason of his controlled imagination. In the deep of himself, where every ideal exists in itself and not in relation to something else. In him there is no need for the restraints of reason, for the only restraint he can obey is the mysterious instinct that teaches him to eliminate all moods other than the mood of fulfilled desire. Imagination and faith are the only faculties of mind needed to create objective conditions. The faith required for the successful operation of the law of consciousness is a purely subjective faith and is obtainable upon the cessation of active opposition on the part of the objective mind of the operator. It depends upon your ability to feel and accept as true what your objective senses deny. Neither the passivity of the subject nor his conscious agreement with your suggestion is necessary, for without his consent or knowledge he can be given a subjective order, which he must objectively express. It is a fundamental law of consciousness that, by telepathy, we can have immediate communion with another.